Welcome to today's podcast, Global Citizen Life. Today we have Anthony Parent on the show. And Anthony, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sally. So happy to be here.
So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about what you do and how you got on the path to entrepreneurship and what you're doing right now?
Oh, okay. I run a podcast myself, IRS Medic on
Mhm.
YouTube, and I got onto that one day because I turned on the camera and started talking, and that was a few years ago, and it's I have a lot of fun doing it, and really the topic that we talk about and sort of how this evolved is my dad and I went to law school together. We graduated together. We started doing real estate law closings. The market was, I had a feeling the market was going to not do so great. And I got into tax in 2006. And then I felt pretty vindicated in 2007. And then and it was funny. We were doing a lot of tax resolution work back then. And I remember I had a few attorneys who were doing a huge amount of closings before the boom. And so I was like, wow, I think I made the right move getting out of real estate and more into tax. So we're doing resolution, but in 2009, that's when I got a call from my staff. There's a guy at the office here. He has $7 million in an undisclosed Swiss bank account. Is this something we could help with? I'm like, well, yes, obviously. Sure.
Yeah.
So he came in and, talked to him, and we learned together about this form called the F bar. And I'm looking, I was like, this has a 50% penalty. I'm looking, he's like, yeah, what are we gonna do
Oh,
about this? And so together, he knew I didn't know anything about it. But we figured out, there was a whole offshore volunteer disclosure program with the IRS. And then in his case, as I was going through it, I was one of the first cases where the IRS ran into the foreign mutual funds. And so this was an issue where they didn't have any guidance on this. And their examiners didn't know what to do because these PFICs, as they call them, were so complicated. The IRS had to come up with a way to do it. And so I was, going through and so I was really learning a lot. And there were some IRS employees who, I learned a lot with. We really
mhm.
helped develop it. And then it just struck me that the government didn't know what it was doing. And really they didn't know that
Right, right.
what they thought was
Mm,
going
mm,
on, and then what the reality was. Whoa, the government was assuming that there was all this money just stashed overseas with no rhyme or reason. It was just free money. What they
right.
found out was, oh no, people actually had legitimate things overseas. And
Yeah.
for financial products that the US tax system didn't know how to deal with because there's no analog. So
Mm,
the US has this global jurisdiction of which it's completely unfamiliar with because it doesn't know what it is. And then you find the difficulty and the challenge of trying to fit, square things into round holes and vice versa. And then, using your creativity sometimes to find the way that it fits the best. Um,
right.
and so through that, that's how I got introduced to the whole expat, the expats, because, hey, look, in 2010, 11, there wasn't this easier streamlined program out there. So people are calling, I'm going to jail and they're going to take all my money. And we definitely were more aggressive than other firms and sort of pushing back on the IRS. Um, my dad and I, we always did pretty well with the IRS. We kind of understood them. My dad was a lifelong government bureaucrat, so he had a way with
Okay.
them.
Right.
And his way is so disarming because he comes off as goofy, in fact, but he's so
Very
efficient.
smart. Very smart. Mhm.
He was so likable, so I always felt like we always had a good chance. And when we did, we pushed back, pushed back pretty hard, and we were aggressive in making sure those penalties were as low as possible.
Mhm.
And so just sort of that whole discovery of this incredibly abusive thing.